Howdy, folks. Ever find yourself short on ingredients way too late in the game? Making a health-friendly snack or meal? No worries, I got you covered. My name is Janay Goodman, and this is Tactical Snacking. With the climbing obesity rates in both children and adults, it's really good to have some healthy alternatives in place. You can feel good about what you're eating and feel good while you do eat it. If you're substituting butter in a recipe, try olive oil, vegetable oil, or coconut oil if you have it on hand. If you're making a creamy stew or maybe some baked goods, try 1/2 of a cup of Greek yogurt in place of every cup of butter in your recipe. Any lean meat subs? Chicken and fish are typical, but most people don't think about ground turkey instead of ground beef. Also look for the leaner cuts of beef, basically meaning that they just reduce the amount of fat in the meat, or you can try venison instead of beef. Bonus points if you hunt the deer yourself. I do a lot of baking, and that typically means that I find myself short on baking ingredients that I thought I'd been stocked on, well, a lot. Buttermilk is not something that I keep readily on hand, and it's the leftover liquid that results from making butter, hence the name buttermilk. Although it is a drinkable substance, the tangy taste is not a fan favorite. Because of this, I hardly keep it in my household, so I tend to make it myself by mixing 1 tablespoon of vinegar or lemon juice into a cup of milk. I let this mixture sit on my countertop for about 10 minutes, give it a stir, and it's ready to add to your recipe. If you ever find yourself short on eggs, try adding 1/4 of a cup of unsweet applesauce or 1/4 of a cup of mashed bananas in place of every egg for your recipe. If you don't happen to have either one of those on hand, try 1/4 of a cup of vegetable oil. I do suggest that for the vegetable oil, you only do this for 1 egg. If you have more than 1 egg in your recipe, I highly recommend a different method. If you're really in a pinch, you can try 3 tablespoons of real mayo per egg. Please also remember to reduce the oil by half because of the fact that your mayo is going to have an oil content. If you ever find yourself short on butter, or you'd like a healthier alternative, try a mashed avocado that's equal to the amount of butter called for in your recipe.
Oh, that sounds good.
Greek yogurt can be used for every 1/2 cup of every cup that is called for in your recipe. You can also use unsweetened applesauce for every cup of butter. Use 1/2 cup of unsweetened applesauce. If you're ever short on milk, use plain yogurt or sour cream in the same amount that is called for in your recipe. Water can also be used in the same amount, but you may want to increase the amount of butter. I suggest about a teaspoon for every tablespoon of water, just to replace the fat content that was present in your milk. I also have a recipe for 1/2 and 1/2, since that's not something I typically keep on hand either. If you have light cream, just use 1/2 the cream and 1/2 a cup of milk. For heavy cream, use 1/4 of a cup of heavy cream and 3/4 of a cup of milk. Last, I'm going to leave you with my homemade Bisquick recipe. You can use this for all kinds of baking. Cookies, cakes, pie crust, biscuits, take your pick. All you need is 5 cups of all-purpose flour, 1/4 a cup of baking powder, 2 teaspoons of sugar, 1 teaspoon of salt, and 2 sticks of butter or 1 cup of shortening. All you do is sift your dry ingredients together, cut in your butter or shortening, and it can be stored into an airtight container for 6 weeks. Refrigerate it if you're using butter to keep your product from going rancid. This is a huge time saver. If you have any questions for me, feel free to shoot me an email. noodlesv2@yahoo.com. That's noodles v2@yahoo.com.